You're listening to Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall on CJAD 800.
That is James Mennie. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, my favorite headline so far today, what you wrote about the Quebec Liberal Party. It's time to switch off the Quebec Liberal Party and then switch it back on. In other words, Control-Alt-Delete for the Quebec Liberal Party. So you heard the Marwa Risky piece, I guess?
I got to tell you, that's really what triggered it. I had no intention of addressing the Quebec Liberal Party. But I heard you guys, and I want you to understand, I'm not flagging you guys. We're doing our job. But I remember, and you should remember as well, the first person actually ever told me that André Fortin would be a good leader for the Quebec Liberal Party was you. Yeah. It was back in 2018.
True.
And you said you like the cut of this guy's jib. He's bilingual. He seems to have it figured out. And you recall, 2018, the Liberals had already been hit hard by the CAQ, and everyone was in kind of a state of shock. And that's fine. But then André Fortin stood up and said, listen, I want to spend time with my family. Everyone rolled their eyes, but he was legit. He had 2 young kids, and that was his reply. And it was the same reply he gave in 2022 when the Liberals got pounded even deeper into the ground. But what I'm trying to recall here is at any time, whether it was us or any other outlet, did anybody call André Fortin on and interview him and say, are you sure you want to do this? Are you really sure? Because there's a lot of people who support you. There's a lot of people who think he's really good. I'm listening to Marwa Risky yesterday, kind of justifying a decision that I think, of course, she could have made it more clearly, but it was clear she didn't want to stomp on her party, but she had made it clear that her family was a priority. And that happening concurrently with this ridiculous reaction by the Quebec Liberals to English Week at Collège Garneau up in Quebec City, where even the Minister of the French Language is saying, but, it's not that big a deal. He had to change his tune down the road. But the Liberals, nobody was saying to cancel it except for the Liberals. And I've said, the CAQ, they don't know what they're doing, but they're doing whatever they want. I would abbreviate that to the Liberals saying simply that they don't know what they're doing. And it's time. It's not time for conferences. I wasn't joking a couple of months ago when I said maybe they should take a leaf from the BC Liberals who changed their name, But something has to happen here because it's a clown car show every other week, and it does not bode well for the landscape of Quebec politics. I think there is room for a party that is, like the Quebec Liberal Party. But what we're seeing right now, if I can continue my computer metaphor, is there's some major defragging required for this party because it's in bad shape.
I haven't heard anyone use the word defragging for years now, Jim. Well done.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, it means your hard disk and you have to go ahead and reprogram or whatever your hard disk.
Defrag.
Yeah.
You got to defrag it.
Yeah. But it's interesting, Jim, because we're going to talk with David Hertel later, or someone who's been in that party. When we asked for André Fortin today to come on, we actually asked yesterday, right after this whole debacle. We were told very, very nicely, as we were by his, press attaché, no thank you. And then, for whatever reason, added the part that said this is his flack now answering, that Marwa Risky's position, she is their education critic, by the way, right?
Yes.
And higher education critic. Her position is the party's position. That's what they told us in this note to saying André Fortin was not going to
It's
make
her
it.
dossier and her word stands.
Yeah. I found that interesting.
Well, fundamentally, never mind what I do for a living. It's just as a listener, as a Quebecer, and I mean this with all due respect to André Fortin, but where do you get off even doing this?
Yeah. Well, that's the question I think we're all trying to understand.
I don't question his good faith, and there might be some, arcane thing that's going on behind the scenes that maybe they realize that if she bows out, there is literally nobody else in this quadrant of the galaxy who wants to have anything to do with the leadership. But the reality is, it just struck me as being very odd, very kind of weird.
Same as us. Same thing, same reaction. All right, let's move on and talk about something else. I'm curious at this headline. You say Francois Legault will take Bill 40 to the Supreme Court. We're all wondering if he will, Jim, or if it stops at some point. You think it's not going to. He's going to go all the way.
Did he give the reasons?
Well, they filed the appeal. They filed the leave for appeal to the Quebec Court of Appeal today.
Okay.
I haven't seen the filing. My buddy Paul Cherry over the Gazette wrote it up. It would seem they're just saying, well, no, the judge got it wrong, and he's misinterpreting Article 23, which is the article of the Charter that, it guarantees that linguistic minorities have control of the education of their kids across the country. But honestly, and with all due respect to the Quebec Ministry of Justice, that they will argue this, and given that the initial judgment did not seem, looking to make new law here. It simply said this is the way it's the way we do things in this country, and this law is ridiculous. It shouldn't apply. They'll take it to the Supremes and hope something else will, happen along the way. You cannot. But my concern here is when you see this law, and if you had any question about this law being nothing more than a full frontal attack on the education system in general and the Anglo education system in particular in Quebec, any doubt would have been effaced by that appeal and this ongoing appeal. Francois Legault will always double down. And remember, when asked that, when the judgment came down, the only thing he could pull out of the air was, well, not many people vote in school elections. Give me a break. This has not saved us money. It certainly hasn't added to the quality of education. Quite the contrary, in fact. So, given, flight time, if we're all around in 5 years' time, I'm sure we'll be talking about the Supreme Court judgment on this as well.
So, but we're still waiting for the actual reasons, right? Like he said he would come out and explain to us why he was filing the appeal.
The reasons, he may have political reasons, but let me give the short version. Francois Legault just doubles down on everything when he gets challenged on it. And I'm sorry, like I say, I haven't seen the filing. The legal reasons that the government believes it has to appeal are contained in it. There's about a dozen of them. But essentially, it's like, the Superior Court Justice in this ruling did not concur with previous rulings the Supreme Court has made on Article 23. I can't go into detail, I'm afraid. As I say, I haven't seen it. But the fact is, it doesn't matter. They could have put the lyrics to Baby Shark in there. It makes no difference.
You're right.
It's just an appeal.
Yeah.
And that they have to keep this alive. They can't turn around and shrug and say, okay, we'll forget about it. This is a fundamental part of one of their original campaign promises. And let's face it, the only campaign promises that the CAC likes to, does its best to keep are the ones that deal with the perceived threats, the created threats to Quebec society and identity that the CAC has decided is going to fuel its existence in this province. So there you go. But like I say, we haven't stopped talking about Bill 40.
No. Sadly. So a big conference on homelessness happening today. Your headline says, "Oh, good, another homeless census." Is that what they've decided, or
That's
are you
the
talking?
best they could do.
Okay.
That's that. We're going to count them again, and this time we'll try and get to the results in less than a year.
Yeah.
But we know that it's up.
Mall announces $20 million. He goes. Yeah. Even he says, "Yes, nowhere near enough."
And we know that
Here's
the numbers
the thing.
are.
You know what the best line I heard today about this whole issue? Veronique Yvon, former PQ cabinet minister, now she's out of politics. Apparently, she was being interviewed this morning on a French language morning show, and she said, "How is it when we're building the REM, when we have a project, a huge project, and there's a lot at stake, there we create a bureau de projet, like a headquarters, where everything gets coordinated. The government works with the companies, makes sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, and even though the REM does have flaws, it did get pulled off." She says, why can't we apply this when we're dealing with a problem like homelessness? Why can't we get a cabinet minister along with a mayor who will be in this office and work together and really deal with this? And God help us, this is me speaking now, why can't we make a deadline to say, you know what, we're going to blow this up in 6 months. We're going to get this dealt with in 6 months or within a year. But frankly, when the Union of Municipalities met this morning, and the president, who's the mayor of Vaudreuil, turns around and says, it's great for Justin Trudeau to turn around and criticize us for not doing enough to build shelters. There's $900 million of federal money for housing for Quebec that is sitting still because Quebec and Ottawa can't agree on how to spend it.
The cynical answer to that, Jim, of course, I think we all know it is, one is for profit and the other one is not. And obviously the one that's for profit is the one that gains the most attention until we start to see figures like this that come out. And we'll forget about this in another week. The government throws $15 or $20 million at it, and then it gets forgotten again for another year. Yeah, well, as an intro, first of all, the reason we're talking about this now, guys, we've seen pictures, and the politicians have seen pictures, not out of Montreal, not off of Viger Street. They're seeing him in Joliette. They're seeing him in Gatineau. Yeah. They're seeing him in all these small towns where this is not supposed to be happening there, and we're seeing it now. But as somebody once pointed out in a very famous series of novels, winter is coming. James Mennie at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, you have a great weekend. Thank you.
You too, guys.